I've got an internal clock of like 42, and I know that you guys have a hard stop here, so I got to get going. I love food. Anybody here love food? Yeah. Like smoked meat. Smoked meat's my thing. Maybe a steak and potatoes. Get some good pasta. Just any sort of like good food. I don't like bad food. Last night, Celeste and Eric, they took me to a nice Thai restaurant. Actually, we did takeout so we could watch the Final Four. It was good stuff. It kind of hit me hard this morning though, but it was fantastic Thai food. Now, this picture coming up is a picture of a tomahawk steak, a Wagyu steak. Anybody had one of those before? Yeah. It's the best, right? You gotta, it needs to be still mooing when you eat it, but it's good stuff. And the story, I want to show you this picture because there's a story that goes with it. There's another advanced pastor down in North Carolina. His name is Donnie Griggs. I think Donnie's been here with y'all, right? I met Donnie 10 years ago or so, and we met through another pastor named Larry Osborne, and he would send us to these churches, and we'd meet these people, and we were down in Rockwell, Texas at Steve Stroop's church, and Steve Stroop said he wanted to meet us at a steakhouse called Bob's Chop House. We go to Bob's Chop House, and Donnie, he's like, hey, let's order this $150 steak on the menu, because every steak was like $50 anyways, and he's like, let's just order it, we'll split it. It was like 36 ounces, and so I end up ordering that steak. Donnie orders like a $20 side, because every side there's like $20, and then this guy, Steve Stroop, picks up the bill. He paid for it, and he's like, Donnie, you just ate a side, huh? Ben, that's all he said. I spent $150 steak on this guy, and so he was not impressed by me. Oh, Steve Stroop was not. I took advantage of his generosity. In my defense, I did not know he was buying my food. Look at this next photo, though. This is another advanced pastor. His name is Brian Barr. Look at that, man. We got some steaks there, getting ready to make some ribeyes up. I love food, and the moral of this story is advanced pastors get together and eat steak, right? But now, why am I talking about food? Why am I talking about food? I love this series that you guys are in called Love the World. And you're thinking about how to live on mission, how to evangelize, how to connect with other people. And here's the deal. Food connects. Food connects. Food connects strangers to one another as you share a meal across a table with them. Food extends relationships, generosity, and grace. As you sit across the table or you go grab that lunch on a business break or whatever it is, food connects with other people. Now, if you read the Gospel of Luke, and we're going to be in Luke chapter 7, in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus is always going to, coming from, or talking about meals. Do you know that? He's always like going to a meal, talking about a meal, or coming from a meal, all throughout the Gospel of Luke. In fact, in the Gospel of Luke, we are given some purpose statements of why Jesus came. Y'all know some of those, right? Why did Jesus come? Can you shout it out? Do you know some of those verses that are in Scripture? Anybody? To seek and save the lost, right? That's one of them. Look at Mark 10:45. Throw that up on the screen. Mark 10:45. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give His life. That's a why Jesus came statement, right? There's another one that Celeste said in Luke chapter 19 and verse 10. The Son of Man came to do what? Seek and to save the lost. But you probably don't know this one in Luke chapter 7. Luke chapter 7, look at this. The Son of Man has come eating and drinking, and you say, look at him, a glutton and a drunkard. A friend of who? Those sinners, those outcasts, those tax collectors that you don't like. Why did Jesus come? To serve, not to be served, but to serve, to give His life as a ransom for many. Why did Jesus come? To seek and save the lost. How did He do it? He came eating and drinking with sinners, extending relationship, sitting across the table with them, talking to them. Like this is like how He loved the world. He loved the world in relationship to the point where the religious Pharisee says, that guy's got to be a drunk. Oh, he's a glutton. Because look at who he's hanging out with. Look at who he's spending time with. It was kind of like they thought Jesus was a party animal. He ate with people a lot. It was his mission strategy. It's centered around these meals, grilled fish, a ton of bread, a jar of wine. We know he was sinless. We know he was not a drunkard. We know that. But he was identified. They gave that accusation because he loved the world significantly. He loved the people around him significantly enough to eat a meal with them. Here's today's big idea. Just as Jesus leveraged meals in Luke's gospel to share the good news, you can too. You can do this. You can love the world. It is hard to do community and mission apart from meals. Okay? So here's the deal though. Mission and community are not beyond the scope of ordinary Christians. You don't have to plant a church at 23. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be, whatever, super Christian, super apostle, prophet. You can do this. Ordinary men and women, wherever they find themselves, can live on mission around a table. Mission and community are not beyond the scope of ordinary Christians. You can walk in the ways of Jesus, and you can love the world like he did if you can share a meal, if you can open up your table. And actually, if you think about it, 6 days a week, I'll give you one off. 6 days a week, if you eat 3 meals, you have 18 opportunities every single week to love the world. You have 18 opportunities in those 6 days, breakfast, lunch, and supper. Pick one of them. To share with a friend, to share with a neighbor, to share with a coworker, to share with a fellow student, and love the world. Right after that famous Son of Man passage, there's a story of Jesus around the table in Luke chapter 7. We'll pick it up in verse 36. Luke chapter 7 and verse 36 says this. As one of the Pharisees, asked him to eat with him, he went into the Pharisee's house, and he reclined at the table. And behold, a woman of the city who was a sinner, when she learned that he was reclining at table in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster flask of ointment. And standing behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet. And with her tears, and she wiped them with the hair of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with ointment. Now when the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would have known what sort of woman this is who is touching him, for she is a sinner. And Jesus said to him, Simon, I have something to say to you. And he answered, say it, teacher. Probably a bad idea. All right. Verse 41. A certain moneylender had 2 debtors who owed 500 denarii and the other 50. When they could not pay, he canceled the debt of both. Now which of them will love him more? And Simon answered, the one, I suppose, for whom he canceled the larger debt. And he said, you have judged rightly. See Jesus having this meal with a Pharisee, having conversation. Questions are being asked. There's continuing these conversations, getting him to think. Verse 44, then turning toward the woman, he said to Simon, do you see this woman? I entered your house, and you gave me no water for my feet, but she has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You gave me no kiss, but from the time I came in, she has not ceased to kiss my feet. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she has anointed my feet with this ointment. Therefore I tell you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven. For she loved much. But he who forgives little loves little, or who is forgiven little loves little. And he said to her, your sins are forgiven. Then those who were at table with him began to say among themselves, who is this? Who even forgives sins? And he said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Jesus goes to the house of a religious Pharisee. And a woman with a bad reputation in the city, she hears about it. What does she do? She crashes a house party, right? Can you imagine that scene? Can you imagine the repulsion of, the uppity folks there and the religious crowd and the ridicule that would have been directed towards this woman? She wasn't invited. Can you imagine the stares? But she comes to this party, this meal, because she wants to be near Jesus. She risks social outcast and social indignation. But what's going on? The woman's heart and Simon the Pharisee's heart, they're being exposed in these moments though, right? Like sometimes God does that. He exposes our hearts through the most common everyday stuff. And through this meal, this common everyday meal, their hearts are being exposed. Simon thinks, Jesus ain't no prophet. He don't know what he's doing. He's not the real deal. He's not legit. Because if he was a real prophet, he wouldn't let that woman touch him. What's the big deal? You know, in that culture, and you can go study it and read it, but a woman wouldn't let her hair down. It meant different things. But she let her hair down in front of Jesus and even wiped his feet, right? Her act would have been viewed as improper. It took great courage for her to honor Jesus in this way. She lets her hair down to wipe his feet, anoints him, washes with very costly perfume, all of that, right? Look at her heart compared to Simon's heart. Simon closed off. Her heart, she just wants to be near Jesus. Give him everything. Worship him. Be near him. What grace we see in that passage. I mean, grace is we don't get what we do deserve, right? Mercy, God relents. He kind of, he relents from that. And grace, he gives us better even than we deserve. What grace in this passage. And just catch a few things. Jesus is very happy to link his identity with this sinful woman. He is very happy to do that. He allows it. And if you walked into this room as a sinner and you like know it, like you don't know what I did last night, Ben. I don't know. God does. And he's happy to link his identity with you if you'll come to him. He extends grace. What grace? Have you been scandalized by grace like that? Like it's too good to be true. Jesus lets messy people have access to him. Do you let messy people have access to your life? Do you see, I'm the messy guy. I'm the messy one that Jesus has allowed access to. Have you grasped grace like this? I mean, really, have you? Have you? It turns out to be uncomfortable, grace does. It turns out at times to even be a little bit embarrassing, grace does, for the hard-hearted. Jesus, a friend to sinners. Here's a challenge. Do you celebrate grace like that? Do you associate with people like this? Check your heart. Our church grew explosively when we said enough's enough and we started associating with people like this. Do you feel scandalized like Simon the Pharisee? That's the opposite. That's the opposite. I'm not going to hang out with them. I'm not going to be around them. They vote the wrong way. They act the wrong way. They do the wrong thing. All of those. Are you scandalized like Simon the Pharisee? Simon is supposed to be the host of the party in this passage. He's supposed to be the one who shows hospitality. But is he doing that? Is he doing it? No. Their meals are a lot different than our meals. They would recline at a table, literally like it says, on 3 sides. It'd have been weird last night eating Thai food if I'd have reclined and had my feet in Eric's face. That'd have been something, kind of like on my elbow. But they would recline, and often one side would be left open for a servant to access the table. Many homes had semi-public rooms and courtyards where passerbys and visitors could overhear extended discussions that often followed the meals. They might stop by, they might even join in during that portion. Often the poor would hang around hoping for the scraps, the leftovers. Are you catching it though? The woman who is not even an invited guest is actually the one who shows hospitality. She's the one who turns out to be the true host. In our days, we greet a guest by taking your coat, maybe offering a drink, shaking a hand, maybe a hug if you're into that. Which, by the way, I get hugged all the time at advanced churches, and rednecks don't hug people, so you know. And making small talk. But in their day, they would offer water for guests, but for their feet. To wash them off, because they get in some interesting places, right? That reclining thing must have put those feet in some strange spots. They'd also offer a greeting kiss. Don't kiss me, I might punch you. But Simon, just joking, doesn't do any of these things, right? He doesn't. Simon is a poor host. Jesus says to Simon, you gave me no water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears. Right? You gave me no kiss, but this woman has not ceased to kiss my feet. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she's anointed my feet with oil. Wow, right? Wow. What is hospitality? Because I think as we leverage meals, we need to be hospitable people to love our world and be on mission. I want to give the wives in the room and some of the dudes too, but just a little breath of fresh air, all right? Hospitality is not a performance art, all right? You don't have to have everything together. Hospitality isn't about having the best space, the best place, the nicest stuff. It's actually not. Hospitality is not a performance art. Hospitality is about showing grace, not showing off. Hospitality is about showing grace, not showing off. In hospitality, what you do is you show grace to others. It's not a performance art, right? It's just life. It's who you are. It's what you're doing. You're hanging out, connecting with people. What it does is it builds community, and it builds it around God's grace and generosity. You're being generous. Open up your home. You're being generous, extending, eating food, giving drinks, right? You're showing a generosity from your heart that has come to your heart because of the love of Jesus. And you're beginning to show grace to those who are different than you. Simon, the woman turns out to be the true host in that passage, right? This sinner, she does, not Simon. Simon was the host who was not really a host. Instead, the woman is the host, the party crasher, the uninvited guest. She is the one who welcomed Jesus. And this woman of bad reputation finds forgiveness around the table. This is both a story of Jesus welcoming sinners, but it's also a story of a sinner welcoming Jesus. Yeah, good. Responding to him. Simon, no sense of forgiveness, right? Hardened heart, angry, mad, accusatory, critical. Yeah, no sense of forgiveness. He has no sense of need. Right. He doesn't even see he needs the forgiveness of Jesus. But this woman, she knows her need. She has a strong sense of her own brokenness. And she sees Jesus as the one who says, I will welcome you anyways. Do you see him that way? Do you know your brokenness? She clings to Jesus. She loves Jesus. I'm a pastor of a church, and I've been a pastor for 16 years now at this church. But the one thing that gets me in the quiet moments of my life is just still how broken I am. The thoughts that I have that I shouldn't have. The times that I get agitated when I shouldn't get agitated, right? Like it still gets me, my awareness of how much I need Jesus. Simon doesn't have it. Do you see how much you need him? Who do you identify with most in this text? Do you see your desperate need like the woman? Or are you like Simon? Like, move on, Ben, give me something to do. If someone forgives you, you're going to love them. Jesus says that, right? Have you been forgiven? Do you have that love for Christ in your heart? And if you're forgiven a lot, you're going to love a lot. And you're going to start acting like this worship team, like really getting into it, singing about Jesus. Fantastic job. But we live in a culture where love doesn't drive, fear does. Fear drives almost everything. But fear is a very poor motivator in the long run. You got to see your own brokenness. Yeah, we can still rightly call sin, sin. But when God's love enters our heart, it drives us for the long run. Fear lasts for a while. Love lasts forever. Love, it drives in obedience. Love for Jesus that admits I'm broken, but he welcomes me anyway. Love that shouts, how can Jesus be this good? Love that says, I do want to follow him. I do want to know him. I do want to pour my resources on his feet. Because he's forgave me so much. Love that says, I want to be like Jesus and leverage everyday meals to show grace, generosity, and love the world. You know, at Jesus' table, the marginalized are included. At Jesus' table, the lonely cease to be lonely. At Jesus' table, strangers, they become friends. At Jesus' table, sinners who come to faith in Jesus find forgiveness. They find forgiveness. The Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost, right? How did he do it? He came eating and drinking, spending time with these sinners, with these people, and with the religious. Both. Around the table. He did that. He utilized meals. This is a story of Jesus welcoming sinners at a table, but it's also the story of a sinner welcoming Jesus. Seeing her own need, owning her own brokenness, believing in faith that Jesus wanted her anyways. And it produced a love. And the result of that love is just being drenched in the forgiveness of Jesus. If you've never welcomed him, I want to extend that invitation. You don't have to do anything special, but welcome him and welcome him. Yeah. Respond to him in forgiveness and in faith. He welcomed you anyway. I mean, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to know forgiveness and love like this from Jesus? You know, in this series, y'all are being challenged to try to do 4 things, right? And the 4 things, we heard some of the stories, but they're going to pop up on the screens. Share your faith story with someone. Show hospitality to someone. We're going to zero in on that in a second. Pray for someone and invite someone to church. What I found is I can do all of those things, all 4 of those things through number 2. Very good. All right. Through showing hospitality, I've been able to share my faith story, pray with someone, and invite them to church. Does that make sense? Yeah. And here's the deal. In 16 years at the Bridge, we've baptized over 800 people. I don't know what happened to some of them. It's kind of depressing to me, actually. It's exciting, but where'd some of them go? You know? But we've seen God do amazing things. We've seen lives radically changed. We have. And in those 16 years, we have done things like the Alpha Course, which was really effective in one season, and then for whatever reason, another season it wasn't. We've done all kinds of different how to share your faith trainings and talks and missional living, all of those things. And they work for a season. We've been a part of the different fads, you know, you got to do this, you got to do that. And it worked for a season. But you know what's worked the entire 16 years? Hospitality. That's the one thing that stayed true the entire time. And because it's the way of Jesus. It's walking in the ways of Jesus. And you have 3 meals a day, 18 opportunities. At the Bridge, some of my friends, there was one summer, I grew up in this area, right? But there was one summer where my small group, my home group, I just kept inviting my friends over. We just had these barbecues. These non-Christians would come who played music, and I say, hey, play your music, you know, and it was country, and y'all would hate it, but they would do it, and then we had all this fun together. I baptized 11 of those guys that summer. Wow. That's amazing. In one summer. It can happen. Yeah. I had nothing to do with it, really, besides, hey, you want to come over? And then my poor wife had to cook food. I had a party once. This is no joke. I hope she watches this. I said, we're going to have a few friends over, and 85 showed up. She kicked me out almost. I mean, it was like, what are you doing and what are you thinking? And then our septic tank broke. No joke. Oh, so terrible. All right. Here's the tip as you do this, and I'm gonna get out for here and let you go. As you do this, as you leverage meals, whether it's a business lunch, a coffee in the morning, you can do all that and the everyday stuff of your own life. If you don't have time, do it around your kids' sports and their parents. We do this. Like a lot of my kids play sports. All of my kids play sports. I got 4 girls, and my main evangelism comes from my kids' teammates' parents, feeding the kids, like stuff they're already going to want to do, hanging out with those friends and inviting their parents over. We've seen so much great effectiveness. The stuff we're already doing, we didn't even have to add a lot into our lives to do this. But as you do this, listen to their story. I struggle with talking too much, I'll be honest. But listen to their story. And as you listen to their story, start sharing your story. And as you share your story, if you got faith and love in Jesus Christ, His story is going to come out. You got to get to His story. But start with listening to them, getting to know them. Then share your story. And as you share your story, you're going to share God's story. sharing the life, death, resurrection of Jesus. And then finally, you got to ask them to come join us with you. Follow Jesus with you. Don't just stop. Ask them. Invite them to be a part of God's story with you. Would you guys stand?